the Assyrian, and these are the following points to be discussed, namely, history, folkloric period. What did Assyrians contribute to music? Assyrians folk or pop music. Assyrian dance music. What language is Assyrian? List of Assyrian singer.
Hello everyone, this is Jollibee Blabitad. So today, let's begin from the history of the folkloric period. During this time, the Assyrian folk music is omnipresent in the village scene. A musician is not necessarily a professional, and whoever can sing in any manner is considered a singer. So based to their culture, no matter how you will portray the song, as long as the emotions and notes is there, well, you are considered to be a good singer. And most of the time, music is learned by ears and passed down as an oral tradition. One learns a piece of music is by ears and repeatedly listening to it, perform, memorize it, and then trying to create what one has heard. So playing by ears is often also used to refers more generally to making music without using musical notation. Perhaps using improvisation and instant composition, and the village music may be categorized basically into four occasions or groups. The local secular music, not only to specific occasion, so this group was unable to criticize music that not related to a specific occasions. Second is functional music. From the word itself, it is a group where they have the will use function music for the entire band. And the third is the religious music and functional music and hymns. This group of people focus more on religious music to be honored by worshiping God. And last is music, adapted from other areas, means that this group of people adopt music based on the trendy of other particular area. Anyways, what did Assyrians contribute to music? So from the 1970s and onward, Assyrian music started to incorporate elements from Western popular music, such as British and American music. Genres such as soft rock, pop ballads, and dance pop became popular from 1980s and onward. Although they all still had elements of Assyrian folk, Assyrian folk music claims to be the descent of the music of their ancient Upper Mesopotamian ancestors that has survived in the liturgical music, or also called church music. So Assyrian folk or pop music, also known as modern Syriac music, that refers to the musical style of Assyrian people derived from traditional music, which includes a broad range of stylistic varieties, which would also encompass fusion of Western genre, such as pop, electronic, Latin, jazz, and classical music, with the melodic basis of Assyrian folk. So now, let's dig deeper for the fusion of Western genre. We have the pop electronic. It's a hybrid of two music genres, the electronic and pop. The subgenre fuses together to synthesizer-fueled electronic music instrumentation with a radio-friendly sound and hook heavily songwriting of pop music. So, electronic pop as a musical genre has existed since electronic synthesizer-based music fused with pop music to create a new genre that is now widely known as electropop. Next is to be followed by Latin genre. Latin genre became popular in the late 1990s with instruments such as the flamenco guitar being featured abundantly in Assyrian songs. And most of the Assyrian people use flamenco guitar in their musical industry to create songs. Next to Latin genre is the jazz, a style of dance music popular in the 1920s, similar to the New Orleans jazz, but played by large bands. So jazz is characterized by swing and blue notes, complex chord, call and response, vocals, polyrhythms, and improvisation. As jazz spread around the world, it drew on national, regional, and local musical culture, which gave rise to different styles, then proceed to the classical music, which traditional genre of music conforming to an established form of appealing to critical interest and develop musical taste. The classical music in Assyrian served as their establishment when it comes to its forms and innovation. So once again, the four fusion of Western genre are the pop, electronic, Latin, jazz, and classical music with a melodic basis of Assyrian. And now let's talk about the importance of music into one cultures of Assyrian. So the ancient Assyrians were inhabitants of one world's earliest civilization, Mesopotamia, which began to emerge around 3500 BC. The Assyrian by this time invented the world's first written language, and the 360-degree circle established Hammurabi Code of Law, a collection of 282 rules, established standard for commercial interactions, and set fines and punishment to meet the requirements of justice, and are credited with many other military, artistic, and architectural achievements. And there is Assyrian pop music, mostly written in the minor key, and would typically use the Phrygian scale as well as the harmonic minor scale. So during World War I, and the resulting Assyrian genocide drove many Assyrians out from the mountain region of Hakkari and then back into the Assyrian region of northern Iraq and northeast Syria, and World War II brought them in direct contact with the West, especially the British Army in Iraq. But the contact with the British caused the most influence on modern Assyrian music, especially the period after independence of Iraq in 1932. At this time, they came in contact with Western music and instruments. So Assyrian youth started picking up and playing these new instruments after seeing and hearing the British playing. Then the Assyrian dance music has a beat or rhythm similar to Jamaican music. Solos are common in Assyrian music, and they are also or usually protected with the presence of instrumentation that mostly arranged with keyboard and electronic drums, namely wedding or parties. Although many forms of Assyrian records to do use acoustic and orchestral instruments such as string instrument or chordophones, are musical instruments that produce sounds from vibrating string with a performer play or sounds. So based on the area, you can see there the formation or posture of one of the string instrument in Assyrian, which lead to produce awful sounds. Next to the piano, it is an acoustic keyboard string percussion, that an instrument in which the strings are struck by wooden hammers that are coated with a softer material. So in modern hammer are covered with a dense wool felt. Some early pianos use leather, and the pianos is a musical instrument that has broad appeal. All other instruments are a subset of the piano keyboard. As such, piano are the foundation of musical instrument in general.
Hi, I am Chizumi Selenihan, the next reporter. So now let us proceed. The violin is the smallest and highest pitch of the string instrument family. Violins are important instruments in a wide variety of musical genres. As you can observe, they are most prominent in the Western classical tradition and in many varieties of folk music. However, they are also frequently used in country music, jazz, and even rock music. The next is the saxophone. It is a type of single reed woodwind instrument with a conical body, usually made of brass. As with all single reed instruments, sound is produced when a reed on a mouthpiece vibrates to produce a sound wave inside the instrument's body. So in composition, Assyrian folk can also be found in traditional Middle Eastern makams, and it has similarities to other folk music in Western Asia, such as in Kurdish, Turkish, Persian, and even in Armenian music. Unlike most Western music, Assyria music includes quarter tones halfway between notes, often through the use of instruments or the human voice. So we have here a few types of tribal Assyrian music that has survived to this day, especially in the Assyrian villages and towns of northern Iraq, southeastern Turkey, northwestern Iran, and northeastern Syria. So we have the Rawe, an ancient melodic chant which features wailing echoed voices, usually of a male. Rawe is reminiscent of how one's voice echoes in a valley between mountains. So next we have the Zurna u Dawula. It looks like a combination of a trumpet and a flute, but these are two traditional music instruments, literally meaning a drum and windpipe or flute. They are played together either with or without singing in many ceremonies, such as in weddings, welcoming, and albeit rarely funerals. Next, we have the Diwani, sung in gatherings and meetings. Lyrics cover aspects of life, such as working in the fields, persecution, suffering, and religion. So it's more on emotional. So next we have the Liliana, wedding songs usually sung by women only, especially for the bride before leaving her home to get married. Also sung for the bridegroom the day before his wedding by his family and relatives. Next we have the tanbur, another tribal music instrument, a string instrument with long neck, originated in ancient Assyria, discovered being depicted on carving from South Iraq from Ur to Akkad and Ashur. Albert Rule Tamraz was a famous Assyrian singer from Iraq who played this instrument and sang many folkloric songs accompanied by hand drum or tabla.
Modern Assyrian music. Assyrian Australian band Azedotas incorporated both Assyrian folk rhythm and style with Latin and rock flavor World War I, and the resulting Assyrian genocide drove many Assyrians out from mountainous region of Akkari, southeastern Turkey, to the region of northern Iraq, northeastern Syria. World War II brought them in direct with the West, especially the British Army in Iraq, Russian in Armenia, and French in Syria. So, when we say genocide, it is deliberately killings of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire murdered more than 300,000 Assyrian as a form of ethnic cleansing. And because of that, Assyrian people from Hakkari, southeastern Turkey, go to the region of northern Iraq, northeastern Syria. And then World War II It brought them in contact with the West people, especially British Army in Iraq, Russian in Armenia, and French in Syria. The contact with the British caused the most influence on modern Assyrian music, especially the period after the independence of Iraq in 1932, which brought British oil companies into Iraq and they employed mainly by now English-speaking Assyrians. At this time, they came in contact with Western music and instruments. Assyrian youth started picking up and playing these instruments after seeing and hearing the British playing. Assyrian youth started to find new bands and to play in parties, picnics, and other functions for youth Assyrians and others. So, with the contact, it fades the way to the modern Assyrian music. Assyrian youth started to play and picking up new instruments because of the British influence. That influence that lead the youth to start find new brands and play during parties, picnics, and other functions for both Assyrians and for others. Gabriel Isaad was the pioneer of Assyrian music and composed the first Assyrian song in the Toroyo languages. Otarayha metat alfan emetba, Assyrian, our ship is on the way to sink. In Baghdad, Iraq, the earliest known record is by Hannah Patras in 1931. Perhaps two gramophones, 78 RPM or revolution per minute with the two songs on each, church, hymns, and folk song called Karazuta de Casa. Hannah Petros, 1896 to 1958, later became the music director at the conservatory in Baghdad. There were church hymns and folklore songs with musical company on the records. So, Hannah Petros is the first recording known in Iraq, dates back 1931. Has two gramophone records and one of it called Garasuta de Kasha. Albert Durrell Tamras releases his first records in Baghdad in 1966 on Bashir phone label, owned by Jamil Bashir on Assyrian Iraq, Ode and Violent Soloist, singing in the background with Albert Arbiba and Sargon Gabriel, two singers who would later become notable figures in modern Assyrian music in the United States. Contemporaneously, Evan Agassi was also making music in Iran during 1950s and 1960s. From 1970s and onward, Assyrian music started to incorporate elements from Western popular music, such as British and American music. Genres such as soft, rock, pop ballad, and dance pop become popular from 1980s and onward, although they all still had elements of Assyrian folk. In 1990s and 2000, Assyrian artists routinely fused in the traditional sounds of Zorna and Dawala, consorted by electronic keyboards as synthesized music got popular in the late 1990s with instruments such as the flamenco guitar being featured abundantly in Assyrian songs. Rock's music never became popular in the Assyrian music scene, although a few Assyrian songs have featured electric guitars. Despite rock's unpopularity, there exists an Assyrian Armenian metal band is called Melestras, which has extensive Assyrian Mesopotamian influences both lyrically and instrumentally. So, despite of the rock's unpopularity during Assyrian music, it still gets featured since some Assyrian sound uses electric guitars. And even it's not that popular, the rock's music is, it still exists in Assyrian and Armenian metal band that called Melestras that has an extensive Assyrian and Mesopotamian influences both lyrically and instrumentally. It is customary for modern Assyrian artists to generally sing in Iraqine or Standard Assyrian, which is based on the prestigious Armenian dialect but has influences of the Hakkari dialect. for them to be intangible and have a widespread recognition. Songs in mountainous dialects such as Chari are usually of the folk dance music genre and would attract certain audiences. Due to Arab influence, some Assyrian singers maybe incorporate Mawal in their music. So, what language is Assyrian? The official language of the three main Assyrian churches is Syriac, a dialect of Aramaic, the language Jesus would have spoken. Many Assyrians speak Aramaic dialect, though they often speak the local languages of the region where they live as well. So, here are some of the list of Assyrian singers. First, Janan Sawa, 1956, Assyrian singer from Iraq, based in America. Second, Nadia Louise, 2002, Assyrian singer, songwriter from Iraq, based in Sweden. Third, Feya Yonand, 1992, Assyrian singer from Syria, based in Sweden. Fourth, Robert Ibrahimi, 1949. He is an Assyrian singer from Iran, based in Arizona. The last one is Robert Talaw. He is an Assyrian singer from Iraq, based in Toronto.